Hello and welcome to the Jazz Ranch. I'm your ultra-dominant ego man, and thank you for joining me. And you know, years ago I used to hang out with the great saxophone player Paul Desmond, and he told me once that he used to date fashion models, but they never cared much for musicians who were scuffling. He said they usually ended up marrying manufacturers from Brooklyn. And anyway, he ended his speech by saying, when the world ends, it ends with not a whim, but with a banker. Imagine that. Now at the time I was a banker, and so I took offense at that because I told him I met many more gorgeous women after I was a musician than when I was a banker. So there you have it. Oh, I hear the cat is meowing. He wants to be fed, so I have to split. We'll see you. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome to the Jazz Ranch. I'm glad you joined me. I'm sorry about the ultra-dominant ego man. You know, he tells these fantastic stories. He actually met Paul Desmond at one time, but Paul didn't tell him that story. He got that from Bill Crow. But anyway, this evening I'm going to give you a request by a subscriber for a chord progression, a very simple chord progression in which I'm going to show you the chords, I'm going to show you the scales that fit those chords, and then show you how to improvise over those scales. So this is a special lesson for you. Here we go now with harmonizing and improvising over a simple chord progression. What I want to show you in this video is a very typical jazz progression, jazz chord progression that is used a lot, and show you how a melody could be played over it, and also how you can embellish it by adding extra chords and approach tones and so on, and eventually get to improvising over it, studying the various modes and scales that are involved with the chord progression. But the basic chord progression is very simple. It's like the one chord. We're going to play it in the key of C to keep it simple now, but you want to practice this in more than one key, of course. So it's going to be the one chord for one measure, then to the four chord. Now, I'm playing these for the first step just in their natural form, not altered or not in any way changed from their natural form. So we're going to be dealing with the scale tone sevens like this: C major, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G 7, A minor 7, B diminished, C. So it's going to be the 1 to the 4, to the 3, to the 6, to the 2, to the 5, to the 1, and then a turnaround. So it's 8 measures, and then C major 7, F major 7, E minor 7, A minor 7, D minor 7, G7, C, and then a turnaround, a 2-5 back to C. I'm going to play that melody again and explain it. First of all, each chord has 4 beats. So this is an 8-bar progression. There's 8 measures in the progression. So it goes like this: C major 7, to F major 7, to E minor 7, to A minor 7, D minor 7, G7, to C major 6 actually, and then a 2-5. So that's like this: 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. So there's your 8 measures. Now it's very simple, and it stays right within the diatonic scale of C. There's no notes that have been altered. Now I'm going to show you in the next step how to play a classical contrapuntal style arrangement of this song to make it sound more interesting, adding approach chords and some alterations. Now that's the next step, but it isn't a step that you have to particularly study. I just want to show you what it would sound like making this simple melody now more elaborate using a contrapuntal, which means two voices or a four-part harmony in the two hands. Here we go. Oh, okay, so you heard that that sounded a lot better than the first version because it's more intricate and it has more substitute chords and approach chords and that sort of thing. In other words, making the melody more elaborate sounding by just harmonizing it in a different way. Now, you don't need to understand that, but you can study it if you like that and you want to learn about it. You can study it on the free download that I'm going to have for this. But I want to move on to now how I would take this simple song and this simple progression and now play the same melody in a jazz style or a jazz interpretation, which will involve using some substitute chords, but mostly just changing the rhythm and changing the voicings and changing how I'm playing the melody. In other words, playing it in a different and more syncopated way rhythmically. So we'll listen to that next. I want to talk about how to find the scales to improvise on. In other words, the basis for improvisation are based on scales. So let's talk about these in relationship to the various modes. Now, major modes, C major 7 is the Ionian mode, D minor 7 is Dorian. So it's just starting on a different step of the scale, of the C major scale. We're starting on the second step. Third step would be Phrygian. Fourth step would be Lydian. Each scale has certain qualities. The dominant here is the G7, the fifth step, and that's called Mixolydian. Sixth step is Aeolian. Seventh step is Locrian. Locrian, then we end up on C. Okay, so now the first chord is a C chord major 7, so it's going to be Ionian. The second chord is F, but it's been altered to dominant 7, so now instead of it just being Lydian, now it's Lydian flat 7. So that's the first scale you want to understand in this video that's important, is that you can flat that 7 with a Lydian scale. Now it gives you the opportunity, it's a very versatile scale, it gives you that ability to go to have that flat 5 in there, right? 5, flat 5, like that kind of sound. Then we go to the next chord, which is E minor, which is Phrygian now. C scale starting on E. Next scale is an A. Now, I'm going to call this a superlocrian. I've talked about this in past videos, but basically it's half step, whole step, half step, and then whole steps. Some people like to look at this as being a B flat minor, like that, a B flat minor scale, which is a melodic minor scale. I like to call it a superlocrian, but that's it there. The next chord is a D minor 7, so it's this scale, which is like a C scale starting on D, which is D Dorian. After that is a G7 now. This is with a flat 9. There's the third. Here's a sharp 5. So we can use that superlocrian scale again, which goes up a half step, whole step, half step, then whole steps. Some people prefer to look at it as an A flat melodic minor, starting on the 7th step, but either way you look at it, that's the scale like that. I call it a G superlocrian. Then we end up on C major again, and you have the C Ionian. Then if you're going to use this D flat Lydian flat 7, you have this scale. So it's the 4th step of an A flat. Okay, so that gives you the flat 5 in the chord. Then if you flat the 7, it would normally be that note, but we're flatting it, so you have the flat 7 in the D flat chord. So there you have it. So now we'll move to the next step. The next exercise, I've written out an 8th note improvisational exercise that's a good way to practice to try to get smoothness on those scales and play lines that connect from one chord to the next. So the beginning of it sounds like this. See, that's the C Ionian, goes into the F7 or the F7 chord with the flat 5 into the E minor. Now, I'm going to show you 2 versions of this, first played very slowly, and you can read along with the sheet if you've downloaded it, and then one that's played with a swing feel at a quicker tempo. The next step is I'm going to take that 8th note exercise now and simplify it so it sounds more like a jazz solo. In other words, with rests and different combinations of rhythms and more space. I'm going to finish up now just playing a solo, an improvisational solo that I invent on the spur of the moment. I'm just going to create this over this chord progression, this 8-bar chord progression, so you can hear the varieties of things that you can develop into. So here we go now with the solo. That's all for this video, and thank you so much for joining me. Please write to me, send me your requests and your comments. I will always respond. And until next time, in the words of my famous friend Hermie Dressel, I will say, swing loose, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.